Avatar: The Last Airbender has a special place in my heart. This was one of my favorite shows as a kid, and it still is to this day. From the beautiful fight scenes to the complex characters, this show always kept me on the edge of my seat. The episodes that blew my mind back in the day was The Beach. Mind you, The Beach was one of the first episodes that I ever watched when it premiered, and it did not disappoint. The other reason why I love this episode so much was that it finally made the villains relatable, pushing them away from the dangerous situations that Azula and company are normally in to making them typical teenagers. It's a very similar concept to the episode The Headband, when Aang goes to school and acts like a normal kid for a day. What makes The Beach the better of the two episodes, in my opinion, is that The Beach forces us to see who these evil Fire Nation teenagers are, where in The Headband we already know who Aang is and what he stands for. The Beach finds a way to create a fun, lighthearted story that gives all of the villains a clean slate. As a kid, it was pretty common for villains to be shown in an unflattering light. Most of the villains that I saw in my childhood were black and white, meaning they were just evil to be evil. Some examples from this show would be Fire Lord Ozai, Admiral Zhao, or even Long Feng. Their role was to antagonize Team Avatar. That was their whole personality. Nothing else was going on in their brain. They just were seeking power and domination. That's it. The Beach did something different. It made Azula's group broken, or at the very least unsure of themselves. Before this episode, Azula, Ty Lee, and Mei were very similar to Fire Lord Ozai and Admiral Zhao. They were just evil to be evil. I mean, they were way cooler than Admiral Zhao, but they were just there to chase Aang. Their personalities were one-dimensional. Taking a look back at Book 2, Azula was the scary one, Ty Lee was the goofball, and Mei just didn't care. Wow, Mei didn't really change that much. But after The Beach, it paints these three in a different light. They're no longer categorized as just villains. Each character has their own distinct personality that the audience can relate to. What makes the episode well done, in my opinion, is the inclusion of Lo and Lee. These two are never that important to the plot of Avatar. They have some funny scenes here and there, like when Azula banishes them. But in this episode, Lo and Lee are the stand-ins for Iroh. They shed pearls of wisdom about keeping an open mind. At first, it just sounds like these two are just blabbering about nothing. Like when the Fire Nation teens arrive and Lo and Lee say, Ember Island is a magical place. Keep an open mind, give it a chance, and it can help you understand yourself and each other. Then at dinner, Lo and Lee say a similar line. Like waves washing away the footprints on the sand, Ember Island gives everyone a clean slate. Ember Island reveals the true you. Both of these quotes are foreshadowing the bonfire scene later, however, there is still more to what Lo and Lee are saying. I think they're trying to subtly break the fourth wall as well, advising the viewers to not judge these characters too harshly. Taking what Lo and Lee have to say into consideration helps reinforce why these four characters act the way they do. When Azula and company first hit the beach, they think the other beachgoers know who they are. Azula does what she normally does and finds a way to instill fear to showcase her group's dominance. This backfires when two popular boys come in and invite Mei and Ty Lee to a party, unaware that they're talking to royalty. The scene is important because it shows the audience the same type of one-dimensional characters we know and love from Book 2. Zuko is angry, Mei is bored, Ty Lee is bubbly, and Azula is just freaking people out. Then let's skip to the party scene. After Lo and Lee remind the characters and the audience to keep an open mind for the second time. All of the characters are in a brand new environment. Their royal safety net is gone, and they're left to be themselves. For Zuko and Mei, the party forces them to confront their issues in a head-on approach. Ty Lee finally gets the attention she's been craving her whole life, but it's too much for her to handle. The most drastic change is Azula. Once her safety net is gone, Azula is left unperfect. and doesn't understand the subtleties of mingling. She's looked down upon as a weirdo. Within this scene, each character struggles with being misunderstood by their peers, which is very similar to what teenagers watching this show deal with as well. Contrasting this scene with the beach scene from earlier, it shows how different these characters are when they set aside their masks and stop pretending to be who they're not. This leads us to the most iconic scene of the episode, the bonfire scene. At this point in the narrative, we're left with characters with a sense of unease. Each teenager feels awkward, and the team dynamic has changed. It's no longer like a well-oiled machine that we see when they're playing volleyball earlier. Each of these individuals gives off a leave me alone type vibe. It's only when Ty Lee decides to speak up that the emotions start pouring out. This gives us an insight into what each Fire Nation teen is dealing with. Ty Lee is dealing with being insecure, Mei is trying to find her voice, Zuko is having a whole existential crisis but also trying to forgive himself for past mistakes, and Azula is dealing with the fact that she thought that her mom thought she was a monster. This is probably a lie that Azula tells herself, but we'll talk about Azula more in depth on another day. Through this scene, each character gets the spotlight, but what I truly love is how the team dynamic quickly changes from annoyed and guarded when Ty Lee starts opening up to supportive when Zuko gets his moment to speak. Each listens and even tries to advise the others. The scene is wonderful because it shows how all these characters care for one another. Sure, Azula doesn't open up that much, but we get to see a softer side of her personality, how she truly wants to advise her friends and her brother to help them get to the root of their problems. The bonfire scene brings these four closer together, but it also manages to show the similarities between Team Avatar and Team Azula. Ty Lee and Toph are always looked down upon in their families. Both run away from home because they're searching for a sense of individuality. Sokka and Mei are never taken as seriously as the others in their group. Sokka for being a non-bender, and Mei is the weakest member of Azula's team. Both just follow what others have to say, and they don't find their voice until later on. For Mei, it's when she betrays Azula in the Boiling Rock, and for Sokka, it's when he finally finds a master. Aang and Zuko are seeking honor for past mistakes, and Azula and Katara are both passionate and driven, but have a wicked temper. That's just scratching the surface of the parallels between these two groups. It's funny how closely related they are. If Azula's team was under different circumstances, the audience probably would be rooting for her team to succeed. So why is this episode of Avatar: Last Airbender so important? As a 10-year-old, this episode blew my mind. Because up to that point, I never thought villains could be looked upon as real people. I just thought that because they were evil, I shouldn't care about them. This episode gave me a reality check that forced me to not judge a villain for being a villain. They could have a sad backstory or be relatable. It's okay to like the bad guys. Heck, one of my favorite characters of all time is Azula. The beach helped me understand that the bad guys can be just as complex as their good counterparts. Good versus bad is not as clear-cut as it seems. It's complicated and messy. Characters like Azula and Zuko showcase this very notion. Just because the story is told from the protagonist's point of view does not mean that the villain in their eyes is the true villain at all. The beach makes us walk in these evil characters' shoes for a day, and we finally get to see how broken they truly are, showing that it's better to show empathy than it is to harshly judge someone by one aspect of their life. But hey, that's just what I think. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.